across the north and continued almost nonstop for hours, warning of incoming attacks from Lebanon and Iran. The explosions and interceptions overheard were so loud that some people were dashing outside. They spoke to some residents down there on the ground in Israel, and I do want to get some more perspectives from the ground. So joining us next is going to be Alex Trayman. He is the CEO and Jerusalem Bureau Chief at the Jewish News Syndicate. Alex, good morning and thanks for joining.
Morning, Carl.
So as you saw there, those strikes do continue on. A lot of these proxy groups, Iran as a whole, continuing to launch strikes in Israel. Want to get the overview sense as to what you're seeing on the ground. You are there based in Jerusalem.
Yes, well, Hezbollah seems to have entered the war in a maximum capacity right now, as you mentioned, firing 200 missiles at Israel in the last 24 hours or so. Iran also seemingly able to continue to launch ballistic missile salvos at Israel. There's been 4 launches since midnight already, and Israelis have been going in and out of shelters in what seems to be coordinated attacks now from Iran and Hezbollah into Israel.
I want to bring us up to this. It's a social media post courtesy of the IDF saying about 70 terror targets were struck, including terrorist infrastructure, weapons storage facilities, central headquarters, key terrorists, and an IRGC Air Force headquarters in Beirut. Now, going back to some of these launches that Israel is conducting, those military operations, Alex, I want to ask, what have been the most effective strategies when the IDF has been targeting that infrastructure, but also keeping Israeli civilians safe from any counterattacks?
Obviously, Israel wants to hit the launchers, which prevent Hezbollah or Iran from being able to fire on Israeli population centers. But what we've seen is that really Hezbollah has rebuilt much of their chain of command. You'll recall that Israel had taken out Hassan Nasrallah, Fuad Shukr, the number 2 of Hezbollah, had taken out about 3,000 members of the mid-level command with that Beeper episode, and was hoping that Hezbollah was largely deterred, but as you could see very clearly, they have been rebuilding at a quite rapid pace in order to get ready for what would be the next round of fighting, and that is this round. And the feeling here in Israel that the IDF and Israel need to go all the way, that there cannot be any more filing back of Hezbollah or filing back of Iran, that there needs to be a fundamental change where there's no possibility for Hezbollah to attack Israel in the future.
And so it's interesting because you're talking about this rapidly rebuilding of the terrorist organizations here, even though they are continuing to be struck by Israel, also U.S. forces as well. What or who is credited with that rapid rebuilding, and how are they able to continue to coordinate and launch these attacks?
Well, we see that based on what Israel's been doing inside Lebanon, is that they've actually been attacking Iranian and IRGC members and infrastructure inside Lebanon. So Iran has been at the focal point, the head of this terror octopus, not giving up on their strongest terror proxy, which is Hezbollah, and still diverting as much money and resources as they can to these terror entities. They're just hell-bent on attacking Israel, and they want Israel to engage in full-out war to see a battle of who's going to win.
Speaking of Lebanon, this is a live image that we also continue to have over in Beirut, as you know. And as we've been reporting, Israel continuing to target those strikes, or those infrastructure sites, I should say, there in Beirut. Alex, we've been focused a lot about some of these air operations, but I also want to talk about recent developments on the ground. So in terms of what the IDF is doing now and where they're prioritizing ground troops, how does that stand today?
Well, we're seeing more and more ground troops entering into southern Lebanon with the strong belief here in Israel that there will be a massive ground incursion into southern Lebanon. Questions about the timing, because obviously if Israel's going to launch a ground operation, they want to have full air cover supporting those ground troops. And right now, the majority of Israeli air is focused on strikes inside Iran. We could see that change over the next hours and days ahead, where more and more air resources will need to be diverted to be fighting inside Lebanon. There's the possibility that the United States may enter the war against Hezbollah in Lebanon, but the feeling is that Israeli ground troops will go into southern Lebanon and quite likely to actually take control of much of the land up until the Litani River and possibly beyond, which is about 17 miles north of the Israeli border, to make sure that that area, that region, can no longer be used as a staging ground for attacks on Israel.
Alex, in Iran, we do know that the country has selected a new supreme leader, but Mojtaba Khamenei still has yet to be seen. Now, does that elusiveness contribute to any change when it comes to Israeli strategy as this war continues?
Well, I don't know about Mojtaba Khamenei and his whereabouts. It seems, as according to most reports, that he was injured severely, if not killed, in Israeli attacks. And this is the reason why he's not been seen. Some reports say he's not conscious or does not even know that he's the supreme leader at this point. But what we have seen reports of is that there are Israeli and or American drones operating now inside Iran, and they are attacking these checkpoints that have been set up by the Basij in order to prevent protests from gaining steam and momentum inside Iran. And people are saying that these surprise drone attacks could be the equivalent of the Beeper attacks inside Lebanon over a year and a half ago. So we're seeing now that the strategy is shifting inside Iran, not only just to hit at the ballistic missile and nuclear infrastructure, but actually at the Basij itself, preparing the groundwork to allow the Iranians to get back into the streets and do the dirty work of taking over their regime.